everyone. Welcome to another episode of Life in the City podcast. I'm your host, Aida Ahmad, and together with me again is my co-host, Farid Wahab.
Hello, everyone. It's always a pleasure to be here. What are we talking about today, Aida?
It's another interesting and pressing topic. It's about the growing problem of disharmony among us humans, be it in urban or rural areas, and wildlife. And I'm sure everyone is up to date on what's been happening in the news, right, Farid?
Yes.
One of which are monkeys in particular, because of the recent tragedy where two kids unfortunately passed away in Kulim Kedah after eating poison crackers laid out by a farmer who intended to
I think it was
deter monkeys, right, from his farm. So it's rather unfortunate that that happened. And we will also touch on the recent spate of dogs dying in Penang. Apparently, they were also poisoned. And it's a shocking number. It was about over 20 dogs,
Yes.
right? And we're lucky today because joining us is Dr. Saravanakumar Pillai, who is the former Veterinary Services Department Senior Deputy Director. But more importantly, he is currently the Senior Advisor on Farm Animal Welfare, Policy and Engagement for Humane Society International, HSI. Welcome to the podcast, Doctor. Please share with our listeners your interesting experience as a vet with DVS and HSI.
Yep. Thank you, Aida, and hi to Farid. I think Aida has done some introduction about me. Yes, I served the Department of Veterinary Services for the past 31 years, half of my career as an enforcement officer and half of my career as a veterinarian. And towards my few years before my career, I took my early retirement. I have been assigned to Animal Welfare Section to write the Animal Welfare Act as well as the 13 Code of Practice. So then I took my earlier retirement to join the Humane Society International, focuses on welfare issues pertaining to laying hens. So this is a simple introduction about me.
Doctor, if I can have a bit of your time, I find it quite interesting that you moved from enforcement to becoming a vet. Can you explain a little bit what made you decide to have that a bit of a career switch?
Okay. I went into the Department of Veterinary Services at the age of 21. It is just, I just applied somewhere and then I was called for an interview. And at the time, I wouldn't know what is the meaning of Pengat Kuasa. So I went in as a penolong pegawai Pengat Kuasa with my STPM as a qualification. Then after that, when I indulged into the Department of Veterinary Services, where I focuses a lot on my legal work related to enforcement, investigation, prosecutions and all that. And after some time, I have urged to further my studies. So I was thinking that which education should I take? Then I got an opportunities to go into the veterinary studies. Okay. What do you call it is known as DVM mainly for veterinary studies. So I spent about 5 years there, and once I'm back in the government, you have a sort of like facilities where you can go for your studies with half pay and all sort of things, which I was one of the lucky one. And when I came back, I had to move into the next part of my job, which is highly specialized as a veterinarian. So I started my career. I was 4 years in Ipoh as the field veterinarian, where mainly focusing on treatment of animals. And then I went to the headquarters, placed in animal welfare section, where I was greatly involved in writing of laws and also code of practice.
Thank you, Doctor. Thank you so much for sharing that information with us. Anyway, Aida, why are we talking about this topic today? Why is it so important for the public to know about this issue?
Well, I think mostly based on what the good doctor has said, the operative word, even during your introduction, was welfare, right? Animal welfare. And we know that monkeys, especially the long-tailed macaques, which is abundant in Southeast Asia and Malaysia as well, and which type of monkeys are mainly involved in, sorry to say, but the menace that we are talking about today. Based on the recent reports that I mentioned earlier, it boils down to the big problem of safety of us humans and the animals too, because we cannot continue poisoning them, hoping that they will just disappear, right? So, like what we mentioned before we started podcast, doctor, it boils down to cruelty, and there are laws in place to punish the offenders. So, among these laws are the Animal Welfare Act 2015, and which you said does not apply to wildlife though. Under the act, namely Section 29 pertaining to animal cruelty, Section 30 killing of animals, and Section 31 which is the administration of poison, which are all relevant to these incidents. And under this act as well, any person found guilty can be fined not less than 20,000 ringgit with the maximum fine of 100,000, or face a maximum 3 years jail. But before we delve into the legal aspects of this issue, doctor, could you please explain, I think you mentioned Section 54 bracket 1 of the Wildlife Conservation Act 2010. If I'm not mistaken, this act has also been amended to the Wildlife Conservation Amendment Act 2022.
Yes, okay. This section is been there in Animal Wildlife Conserving Act. Yes, that particular section allow owners, especially farm owners who's having crop, which give them the room for them to capture and even to kill to protect their what do you call crops. But it should be the last resort,
Yeah,
and it should be done by a professional
right.
and who is been trained to remove, not for the public just because the section is there and it is clearly written that owner can take some action. It should not be a point where the public or the farm owner should take things on their hand.
Right.
And you see, this is what happens in Kedah when they took this in their hand. Out of ignorance, they used their own method and offering poison, which is fed in a biscuit, which attracts small kids.
Yeah.
It should not be done.
Yeah, in this case, it was the poison crackers, the
Yes,
keropok.
yes. It is mainly because of that particular section was read rawly,
Right.
without any supportive issues, or they did not take the consequences of what's going to happen in future.
Right. But interestingly, this Section 54, bracket 1, allows the owner to capture or kill the wildlife in the case of causing damage to crops after a first attempt to scare the wildlife had failed. So can you tell us, doctor, what does kill here mean? Does it include poisoning the animals? What are the laws or penalties one might face for using poison on wildlife?
Okay, the clear demarcation of poisoning is in Animal Welfare Act. Unfortunately, the interpretation of animal in the Animal Welfare Act removed all the interpretation of animal in the wildlife, meaning anything is already in the list, Schedule 1, 2 and 3 of Wildlife Act, Conservation Act, does not in place for this particular Animal Welfare Act. So the deterrent is more to like what is written in this Wildlife Conservative Act. Okay, but mainly since the Wildlife Act allow killing, so it is not an offence if we read by thing, and it's clearly written that you should take upfront action, okay, a non-lethal action, And public wouldn't know what is the meaning of non-lethal action.
It's not
And
specified in the act.
yes, and they
Right.
also don't know the methods which is available, the devices that they can use. So they straight away go into the final resort of poisoning the animal.
Right.
When, if I can chime in a little bit,
Sure.
when the act says kill, does it specify what types of methods are, permissible in order to, kill the animals?
I have read the law, and normally when we read the law, we will read the interpretation. So when the interpretation is talking about killing, then they will specify into more details. But in this act, I don't think so that we have that part. So it is more down to standard operating procedure or code of procedure, which is supposed to be released by the wildlife department. But that also, I don't think that is also there. So it is the job of the owner who feels that he wants to enforce the law, Section 54, should do some readings or get the opinion from the public, from the experts, to take the first line of action, which is scaring them or taking all the resort. In fact, the killing will be the last final resort, and I still affirmate that it should not be done by the owner. It should be engaged a professional who actually knows how to deal with this killing program.
Yeah, that is true because from the wildlife perspective, because rural communities may not be aware of the detrimental effects of using poison on animals, they deem as pests, right? So from a veterinarian's perspective, doctor, what kind of damage to crops would justify harming wildlife or deterring them?
Okay, as a vet, for me, both are important, which is the crop as well as the wildlife conservation. All right. So since at the same time, if there is a significant damage which imposed to the crop, it is also a duty of the owner should take a proper precaution. So what we would like to, I would like to tell is a proper. There should be a first line of action has to be focused on non-lethal.
Yeah.
Okay, and the final of reading the law as it is of Section 54 should not be taken into their hand. I'm a strong believer of this particular thing. Although when you read the law, it is giving you the entire power to actually kill. Actually, it's not. It should not be interpreted in that manner.
Yeah.
Right, and then if at all it has to be done, it has to be done. Then it has to be solely done on very calculative and also very carefully manner, in order not to harm the other surrounding, not to disturb the ecosystem. So there is maybe just now, like what Aida said, it should be engaged pest control. Then we have also several experts who can actually work on this.
I think I came across this information when I was covering local councils in Selangor. This relates to issues of dealing with stray dogs. And one of the things that I was told was that there was a challenge in finding a contractor that is willing to take on such a job. So, doctor, do you think it's possible that that these farm owners, they find it difficult to find a qualified contractor or a contractor that is willing to take on such a job, and that could probably be the reason why they are taking matters into their own hands?
Yeah, see, since you're asking about contractor, and I have been working closely with them when I was the Department of Veterinary Services, they need to handle some drugs which is prohibited, can be only held by a veterinary surgeon. And catching and also the animals also need quite level of expertise. So this should make up the company. So, and you can, I would say it's very small or very, very less companies with these entities, vet as well as, because vet may not be only focusing on this. So getting the company to be a contractor itself is a big issue. Okay, but some of the town council already engaged, where if you zoom into the company, they have a vet, and also they have some expertise. They are actually at the call of any time from any public to actually work with them, but they are made by the law, which is the bylaws by the town council. Meaning each time they cannot go alone, they cannot enforce alone because they don't have the legal standard. It has to be along with the town council officers, because the rights for them to do the job comes with the bylaw, which was assigned to them by the YDPs.
Right. So it's a collaborative effort then.
Yes.
Yeah. It
It
takes
is.
the whole village to do this, and as humanely as possible, right?
Yeah.
Speaking of humane methods, doctor, for capturing wildlife, there are some that can be used, right? Instead of culling them or poisoning them. Based on HSI's stand on this matter, maybe you could explain about that.
Okay. Initially, normally we will take a technique where we will try to capture life and relocate. If you see, this is what happening now. If at all a snake has been found in the house, we normally will call bomba or APM, Angkatan Pertahanan Awam, and they are being trained with all the gadgets, and they will come and capture, and they will relocate in their natural behavior. That has to be the first. Or if at all that we wanted to take things in our hand, then we have to have some gadgets like sound, lightings, because animals are very sensitive. When you take a device and you put some sounds, they will just run away, and they will normally won't fight. Similar goes to the light. When you on the light at night, then they will just run away. So these are the few methods that you can actually focus on managing them. Apart of that, you can also work on what do you call inviting these kind of like experts to actually do some modification to your environment so that they won't encroach. If you're having a big farm, it is highly recommended that they should be fencing, and the fencing has to be strong enough. If you see most of the farm, they will have 1 or 2 layer of battery wires, which the wave will actually keep them away. They
Shock
will
the
not.
animal if they
Yeah,
come too close.
they will. The shock will only take place when they encroach and they hit the wires. But otherwise, when they are nearing itself, they already feel the wave from the battery wires, and they will not encroach.
And the voltage probably should have to be
Very, very low.
within a suitable range.
What is our intention is not to harm the animal, but to alert the animal that there is some kind of like voltage shock here. And most of the time, in my experience, when you have that in place, they will not encroach. They will not encroach. Okay, so I think these are the few actions that the public or the owner of the farm should know.
Yeah.
They have certain levels of action that they can take. All right.
Yeah.
And I've also seen in the top corner of the farms, they have this lighthouse where there will be one worker at night flashing the lights, and there will also a siren to on when they see a group of wildlife coming towards their farm. So, but this is all need to take effort,
Yeah.
and
And cost as well, right? Yeah.
yes.
It sounds like that we need to put some amount of thoughts into minimizing the pain and the injuries to the animals. So, do we have any guideline or any SOP really to make sure that we do our best to minimize the potential harms or the potential injuries to the animals?
Okay, I would comment this based on what I know. The KPKT, Kementerian Perumahan, which governs the town councils, They have taken a vital move by drafting a guideline to all those people who capture the animals, especially the dog and cats, the stray animals, on what are the devices to use, like a jala and some looping device and all that. They have the quite nice and well-structured guideline on what Farid has been asking. Normally, for wildlife, it is in the wild. You no need to have any welfare issue related to them. They have the natural foraging behavior, so they will able to take care. So the guideline for the wildlife who has enclosed the human residency,
Yeah.
I have not gone through, but I'm very sure that agency who has been doing this, like Bomba and APM, should have the guideline. Because if you see the way they work, they are very, very structured. They have all these gadgets, which is mainly to reduce the pain and suffering and also injuries for the animal that they want to handle. Because their intention is not to kill, their intention is to relocate. So they must be relocated in a least stress and no much of injury during the process of getting them.
Yeah. What are some of the challenges the authorities faced in identifying and prosecuting offenders under this particular Wildlife Conservation Act? Because in the story about the farmer in Kedah, he was charged under the Child Act and Penal Code for negligent conduct involving poisonous substance.
Okay.
Yeah. What are some of the difficulties, Doctor,
Okay.
in obtaining the samples from the poison
Okay,
substance?
so mainly what will happen is if it is happens in urban, okay, then you may always find problem of getting a credential witness. They always prefer to give a call and then without any particular details, and they will just say that, okay, such things has happened. When it comes to the point of can we have you as the eyewitness, they said no. This is worst when it comes to the complaining the neighbor's dog, neighbor's cat. Normally they will be more careful in keeping their harmonized.
Yes.
At the same time, they also wanted to complain. In rural, it escalated to a different level where most of the cases are unattended, unnoticed. By the time you go there, all the evidence has been tampered, lost, so even you can't get. If you're going to talk about poison, then the main substance to approve in the court is the poison itself.
Right.
So you need to get the poison's active ingredient, saying that this is actually a poison from the place that they found. Secondly is the people who actually kept the poison. So you need to have some kind of like evidence which is relating to these two,
Yeah.
in order for you, because when you go to the court, it is you have to prove your case beyond the reasonable doubt.
Yeah.
So any one doubt is just gone.
Yeah.
So this is the biggest challenge for us to get. That sometimes it is kept outside, out of the rain. The animal has eaten about a day ago. The enforcement has been taken a day after. By the time it's already rain and everything is gone. You go there,
Right.
you don't see anything. When I was in enforcement, this is the biggest challenge that we face. Normally, to prove the case, it is kind of like difficult because of these two issues of people who complain or people, and then also the evidence itself.
And then the complainant get upset because they feel like they have complained, but
Yeah,
it's not
nothing is
leading to
done,
anything.
yeah.
Yeah, correct. But now it's different. You see, the enforcement has gone to the next level. I would like to quote, remember the cat which has been put into the washing machine?
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
The
And
famous
then,
case.
so they have gone to the extent of getting the fur from the turbine and then send it to a forensic report to know that whether this is that particular cat's fur. So, this is a very strong case, and we have CCTV which
Yes,
prove that who is the offender.
Yeah.
And PDRM has done a great job. By few days they managed to capture. These are the advancement that has been done specifically in animal. Those days maybe we may be thinking that this is animal, so no focuses. Not the scenario now. The police and also the authority are taking immediate action when it comes to these kind of offences.
Yeah.
Doctor, another thing that we need to talk about, animal or wildlife encroachment. Well, I don't think it's right to call them they are encroaching. It's more like we are encroaching on
Yeah.
them. But wildlife infestation happens even in urban areas, and that happens when developments encroach into the green lungs. So, do you foresee this problem becoming worse in future as more and more developments, expand or sprawl into green areas?
Yeah, in fact, if you ask me, as a veterinarian, I would actually love to preserve the natural habitat of an animal because they play a vital role in our ecosystem.
Yeah.
And they have their own role, which normally we are not focusing. We may focus a lot on the human development, on the infrastructure and all that. Yes, Farid, the main problem is because of the development. But for a country to flourish and also to enhance, they need to have development. Okay, so when you play within these two issues, so you need the development, at the same time you need a proper habitat and conservative. So the government has to play a vital role and also a long-sighted role in order to balance both. If this does not happen, then issues related to encroachment of wildlife into the human habitat will definitely. What they need is, why they are coming is mainly because of the food.
Yeah.
When you reduce the size of the forest, you reduce the size of the ecosystem, and the food chain has been disturbed.
Yeah.
So what they'll do, they will come to places which is near to humane area. Worst case, if I would say a good example is the Jalan from Main Road to Batang Bejuntai. You see, along the way, there's a lot of monkeys in all different ages, even from babies to the grandfathers. Why? Because people throw food.
Right.
So when they start to eat the humane food, there are more calories, there are more fat, there are no sugar, and they lost the habit of foraging. So
Yeah.
they will wait from the morning till evening for people to give food.
That creates dependency, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And they become total dependent on the food, and they lost the ability to find their own food.
Right.
Doctor, I would like to circle back to the issue you raised about installing the fans, the electrified fans. Apart from that, are there any other methods that you can suggest that people can use to keep wildlife away, but also at the same time making sure that they are safe? I know for a fact that in some kampung areas they create noise to keep wild boars away. Some of them they light up firecrackers. Are there any other methods that people can use?
Okay, you have some kind of repellent, chemical repellent, which is friendly to the environment, but it gives sort of like heavy smell to the animal, but for you to use the repellent, you need to be very near, so which is also able to endanger, because the animal will understand that you're trying to harm them. Noise and light would be the best way, because it can be heard from a long distance, and even they are already encroaching, you can put yourself into a safe zone and create the sound. Firecrackers will create havoc where they will be
Overstimulated.
induced, and they will be running all over the place.
Yeah.
And most of the time this works. Otherwise, to have very sophisticated gadgets, in my knowledge, I haven't never seen. Maybe they might be there, but not. I've never seen. When you deal with small rodents or wildlife which is small size, and also that will lead into complication, because when you make sign, they will move into an area where they feel safe,
Right.
and where it's a house. And
Yeah.
within
They
the
seek
house,
refuge there, yeah.
and then
Yes.
within the house, you have a lot of places that we also wouldn't believe that that is actually. So that kind of like make it more complicated.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
So getting the proper professional, and also when you find somebody, you can actually give immediate call, and they are all working 24/7, and they will be there when there is a distress call related to animal intervention, especially wildlife. And if at all that it is been found roaming around, then I think the wildlife department has a method on how to trap them, and then capture them and relocate them. So we have all those in place.
Right.
So when you take things in your hand and you are not professional actually to handle the situation can be chaos
Yeah, I
when
can.
it is
Yeah.
mishandled.
Yeah. I found something interesting in an article written just over a decade ago in a news portal in the US, which highlighted the huge number of monkeys, in particular the long-tailed macaques, that were culled by our wildlife officials, which they have denied. It said the Malaysian branch of the World Wildlife Fund, which refused an interview with this particular US news agency, said that Metropolitan monkeys did not fall under the context of wildlife conservation. What's your take on it, Doctor?
Yes, metropolitan monkeys may not fall under the conventional wildlife species, but they are mainly be seen in urban areas. All right, and normally they have this natural foraging behavior, but in my opinion, they have lost the natural foraging behavior. It's mainly because of the feeding, which is done by the human itself.
Right.
Okay, they tend to understand. You can see the overpopulated of these kind of monkeys are in parks and also in the public areas, because they understand human, mostly they carry food,
Yeah.
and they also understand that humans are not careful in protecting their food. And they also understand by a little bit of encroachment, they will actually tend to run away and leave the food there. So they tend to move towards of stealing the food. They also understand if they go into the houses where in the kitchen areas, the nice smell and the access to the kitchen is a nice a room for them to just encroach and get
Yeah.
whatever tasty food.
Yeah.
And whatever food that we eat is high with calories, fat and sugar, which they love. But the bottom is they have been trained by human to take away the natural foraging behavior, and they become totally dependent. So when the human fail to feed them, then they take another resort of stealing food, putting into a little bit of aggressiveness to get the food out
Yeah.
of the human out.
Hands, yeah, which we've seen, Doctor. So we're on the subject of feed or not to feed, right? Because in city parks, we can see the big signboards that the relevant authorities have put up, discouraging people from feeding the animals, which all the reasons you just explained,
Yeah.
right? And correct me if I'm wrong. Monkeys can smell food from far away. I've seen monkeys slowly creeping up to people at the park and grabbing their picnic basket.
Yep.
I've seen people bringing loaves of bread to the park and bananas to feed the monkeys and the fish in the pond. Now, tell us, Doctor, is this feeding frenzy good or bad? And what are some of the ways to address this issue?
Okay. I may not popular by answering this question. As a veterinarian, I will say no to feeding. Okay, but the human perception, when they feed, they are helping the animal. When they feed, they are doing good deed. They will fall into a good karma, or they are the designated soul to feed the animals, because nobody feeds. It is not that.
Okay.
It is we are actually making the animal to be dependent, and in long run, it will harm them because the diet that we give is not suitable for them. It lead into undernourished, it lead into even diseases, malnutritional, all sort of things. So what it should be done is a proper awareness program need to be in place to tell to the public not to feed and why it should not be feed, because they are thinking that they are helping the animal. In fact, they are equally harming the animal, doing more harm than good in terms of feeding them. Slightly, I think Kajang has imposed a small fine for those who feed, but it turned into a big issue. And then I don't know whether the thing is still in place or not.
You mean Kajang Municipal Council?
Yes.
Okay.
So, but if you ask me, that's a good move because when the availability food is there, the population of the animal will increase based on the food availability.
Right.
So when you remove them, the town council take action by removing, depopulate them. Given another 2 or 3 weeks, it will be repopulated again based on the food availability. So when this kind of feeding goes extensively, the availability of food will be there. The problem of new strays will not be solved. I understand that we are talking about TNRM. TNRM has to be in place for them to slowly depopulate by naturally and reduce the population.
Sorry, before you continue, Doctor, when you say TNRM, meaning trap, neuter, release.
Yes, the department does not agree on release. The department wanted it to be trapped, neuter, and rehomed. But some NGOs believe in releasing back and giving them back the natural natural habitat. Some are rehoming with the shelter,
Right.
but the shelters are highly limited, and to rehome you need to have a complete infrastructure to do that. So I think the department and also the government is fairly working to come to an understanding what are the ways. If you see in Kedah, there was one uncle, he took the the downhill and put up a big huge shelter. So that is more or less, when you're encroaching towards the hill, the land are all unused.
Yeah.
So these are the options that the government should think of.
Actually, feeding animals can also be harmful to us. I think recently one of our reporters, Anne Trisha, wrote about people feeding pigeons, and she wrote that the dust spread by the pigeons,
Feather dust.
the feather
Yeah.
dust, can actually be harmful to people who actually have asthma.
Yeah.
And she said that the council where she lives, I think it's Georgetown or
Yes,
Penang.
isn't yes.
Yeah, she
Georgetown.
said actually does impose heavy fines on people. So I think people have that good intentions, but it's misplaced.
Exactly.
Yeah.
See, I agree with the article there, where pigeon could be a carrier of certain disease, lungs, pertaining to lungs and all that, and the dust from the fur could definitely directly link to the asthmatic issues. That's why it's back to the people who's feeding has a strong belief that they are doing good things. So the public awareness and also maybe a little bit of deterrent should be always there for them to understand, without making them a proper understanding on why they should not feed. They will be always thinking that that the government is not sensitive over all this. But it is not the other way around. If you ask me as a veterinarian, I will definitely say no to the feeding. It has to be done structuredly, it has to be done properly, it has to be done in a proper place.
Yeah. Okay. We're down to the last part of our conversation today, Doctor. Regarding, we want to touch on the issue of the dog poisoning cases in Penang. So what happened this month was that more than 20 dogs were suspected to have been poisoned, including a pet husky. So the people in Penang had a visual, and one volunteer dog feeder stressed that there needed to be better cooperation between the Department of Veterinary Services and local authorities. And it's back to what you said earlier, Doctor, about this collaborative relationship to address these issues. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. You have to understand the demographic of our country. Okay, we have most of them are taxpayers, and they contribute to the development of the country. Therefore, they need to sustain their rights. So, on the other hand, you have also a group of animal lovers, and you have a group of people. I wouldn't say they hate animal, but they prefer to have a more sensitive environment for their kids to play, for them to jog and all that. So the conflict within these two people is where the issue starts. And then the belief of the certain NGOs talking about release back to the environment, give them a proper place to them to live on, because they also have life and all that. So this is where the issue of 20 dogs, which has been, I don't know whether it's poison or not, but it's been found dead.
Yeah.
And the pet husky is definitely the negligence of the owner, where they did not exhibit the owners responsible, letting their pet to move out and become stray, and there's no effort for them to retrieve them back. But whatever is it, come down, who's going to solve this problem?
Yeah.
See, when it comes to the town council, it is the job of the town council. They have several bylaws to make sure that the environment is free from nuisance. Okay, they put the word of nuisance, and also pollution. Okay, all this comes under them, and they are receiving hundreds of complaints on daily basis from the public, who is also paying quit rent, who said that they have the rights to have a proper environment. So these are the pressure that the town council is having. So what they do, they move towards to sign with this contractor, or to move with the team to depopulate. Animal welfare allows them to kill animal for the purpose of depopulate, but it has to be under their bylaws. On the other side, Department of Veterinary Services governs the Animal Welfare Act and Animal Act, which is focusing on disease matters related to welfare, and matters related to cruelty. So there are two different pathway, two different jurisdiction, and they have to work hands to hand. Another part that should actually join this coalition is the NGOs,
Right.
because they are the people who is, I would say, very noble people who spend their money, their time, their energy to protect this particular animal. And you can some of the NGOs, you can see their extensive way of doing things is beyond imaginable. So these three people has to work hands to hand to come to a conclusion on how this particular issue can be resolved. Of course, one is increasing the number of shelter, and maybe the government should think of maybe preparing a certain fund to manage the shelter, or the Department of Veterinary Services to give them a guideline, which I think already in place, on how to manage this stray. So, but the three people must come hand to hand, must have one decision, and work along the way to solve the problem. If not, what will happen is everybody will start to pinpoint to each
Yeah.
other. Blaming game will start, and there will be a never ending for this.
Yeah. Back to, just one question about the situation with the dogs in Penang. Now, the DVS Regulatory Department Chief had said that there was a delay in reporting the incident. Now, like what we've established, we're not sure whether it was poisoning or not, but 4 days after the dead dogs were found, resulting in lack of evidence. So there were no samples from the carcasses to be sent to the lab to be analysed. now this is important for people to know in future, animal lovers to know in future, what should have, what they should do, what should have the residents done instead? Immediately call DVS or the local representative, or should they have preserved any evidence, as you know, as much as possible for the authorities to take action?
Okay, now this is a very complicated questions. Okay, what happened is definitely when you wanted to establish why you report, you want them to take the case and also win the case, or you punish the people who does the cruelty. But normally what will happen is back to the witness. Okay, I wouldn't pinpoint anyone, but what will happen out of the interest, out of the enthusiasm, out of some kind of curiosity, under the name of help, they will move in and start to remove the carcass and temper the whole evidence. And worst case is they go and bury and they throw, or whatever they do, it is already, the evidence has already been tempered.
Yeah, or cremate the.
Yes. So when you
carcass,
when you wanted to complain in this case after 4 days, all those animals may be already decomposed. You can't get evidence out of the composing. Okay. The most evident is not to identify whether it's a dog or cat, the carcass, is to identify who does, why, the cause of death. So this is important for the case to be taken. So what the public should do is, they should, once they identified, immediately they should call Department of Veterinary Services. We have regulatory body, we have enforcement division. Either will be mobilized, even we have also animal welfare division in the department. They'll be mobilized to go and take the case. They have all the vehicles and also the trainings to actually collect a proper case. They will go and mark the area. They will precisely take the case, because all these will go into an investigation paper, and this is where it is an important paper for them to prepare the charge sheet.
Right.
And it's all important for them to know that it has to be done immediately by a proper authority. So my advice is, if you find anything like this, you immediately secure the area, wait, immediately call the officers, wait until they come, and then let them do the job. Because the investigation paper starts from the time that the officers arrive. The story will start from there. And then they are being completely trained to retrieve the evidence.
Yeah. Any last questions, right?
I think just to add my opinion, I think I understand the process, how it works. I think the challenge lies in the fact that most people probably feel, oh, it's a dog, it's a cat. You don't have to secure the crime scene as much. I mean, if it was a human, people would take it with far more. People would take it more seriously.
Like what happened with the boys in Kulim.
Exactly. But if it involves a dog, people might say it's just a dog. Get over it.
Yes.
So I think the challenge lies in attitude too. But people need to realize that this is a living being.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with you. That's the reason why for the past few years, the Department of Veterinary Services, as well as the other government agency, has taken serious action in improving their knowledge and collaboration with police and all the other forensic department, chemist department, for them to find ways on how to increase the professionalism near to human. Because yes, those days it is just an animal, but nowadays it's not like that. People are very sensitive.
Yeah, that's
People
right.
wanted to know. People wanted a certain action which is not right to be taken to the court. So yes, it has to evolve to a level of maybe to the stage of how they treat the humane crime scene. It has to be also similar to an animal crime scene.
I think part of it has to do with the widespread use of social media, where these kinds of incidents, they will spread very quickly on social media, and people will, people would go on the comment section, and then public pressure will start to pile
Yeah,
up.
yeah.
Where
I think
before
I-
that's not the case anymore.
Yeah. No, I think it's happening. For example, there was one case found in Johor Bahru that they need the animal to be rescued. But this guy who allowed it out is in Penang, and he put it in social media, and by few minutes somebody in JB already is rescued.
Yeah.
So the positive things is also at the same time the negative things also have happened. We were rushed to one place to look into the case, and we see that where is the evidence, where is that they said this picture has been taken from Taiwan. I just
Yeah.
posted it.
Yeah.
That this is irresponsible.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
and this should not be done. When it comes to you want a proper action to be taken.
Well, any parting notes for it? Because this has been a insightful conversation.
Very eye-opening. In fact.
Yes, and thank you for being here
Thank
on
you.
our show, Doctor.
I'm very happy to have you here, Doctor. Because some of the things you said, I've never even thought about before. I have 2 cats at home. I'm an animal lover myself, but yeah, I think it's very important that people understand the needs to balance between wanting
Yeah.
to be nice to animals, but also thinking about the long-term harms you might be creating if you continue to feed them
It's true.
and poison them.
It's true. So, you see the Animal Welfare Act under Section 24, especially narrating the responsible of an owner. There are 5 main responsible. So what they should do is either the owners all should go through a formal training on this particular section, and also section related to 29, which is cruelty, before they could able to call they are responsible owners. And even we have I've suggested this to town council, before you give license, dog license, put that as one of the criteria. Ask them to show that they have already gone through a proper training related to animal welfare, especially as responsible. When they understand they already gone through, because Animal Welfare Act worked in 2 ways. A person complained that my dog has been beaten by my neighbor, or a cat has been beaten by my neighbor. Of course, the guy who beat the dog or cat will be subjected to Section 29. At the same time, under the Section 24, the owner will be also subjected that you did not give a proper environment. You made your pet to be in this kind of condition. So there's 2 ways that they see.
Right. So training is important before you
Exactly.
get a pet. Duly noted. I think we will be highlighting this as well in a couple of our stories in StarMetro. Once again, thank you, Dr. Saravana, for being on this show.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening, everyone. Our Life in the City podcast can be viewed on www.thestar.com.my/metro.